If you got a mortgage and you have not been paying on your mortgage, the interest has been accumulating and compiling over that time. So a lot of companies, mortgage companies, are expecting like that to be caught up, even though they got programs to help to say, okay, like spread this out over the next 12 months. But if you are like barely getting by now, and then your mortgage payment starts in September, but now with the interest that has accrued over like prior during that time period.
If you want the boss's view, you gotta sacrifice. If you wanna move like bosses move.
YMA, Young Millionaires Association. Yeah, see, that's the association.
All right, guys, welcome to the YMA Nation podcast, episode number 74.
74, guys.
Number 74. If you are on right now, make sure you like, comment, and
subscribe.
I am Joe Wallace, and this is
Rebecca Wallace.
And this is
Wealth Building Monday.
And your name?
I said Rebecca Wallace.
And this is you gotta start the show off with energy.
This show.
No,
I got energy. I'm ready.
You ready?
Oh yeah.
I have a wonderful topic today. If you're on right now, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Down in the comment section, make sure you hashtag YMA Nation and hashtag
They're
Let's
doing
Go.
it right now.
They're doing it right now?
Yeah.
Everyone throughout the month of April, our drawing is this upcoming Friday.
All right.
All right. I know you want to do it. I was going to do it, but I let you see. Look, she love to press the buttons. This Friday, we have our drawing. So everyone who have hashtag YMA Nation on YouTube, everyone who hashtag it on Facebook, on our YMA Nation page, everyone who shared it, they all are going to be in the drawing. So we have a lot of good things. I'll tell you guys on Friday when we actually are doing the drawing of the prizes. Because, we always do cash drawings, and I got some extra goodies.
Not extra goodies.
Extra goodies. Today, though, we have a pretty serious conversation.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about unemployment. It's Wealth Building Monday, right?
Right.
So, unemployment does impact your wealth building.
Exactly.
But not just that. We're going to talk about the pros and the cons. So before we get started, I'd like to say a prayer to everyone who has dealt with the COVID, whether there was a loss in the family, whether loss of employment, or if they was affected.
Right.
Anyway, so prayers out to those who was impacted, like actually impacted due to the COVID, and not just the average American citizen, because we actually have a large viewership outside of the U.S.
Okay.
So, all across the world, if you were affected, prayers out to you and your family. Let's talk about this unemployment, the pros and the cons.
Pros and the cons.
Okay, so I got a interesting note, though.
Okay.
Do you know this is the first time in American history that our economy, that the government actually shut down businesses, like forced shutdown, like on a statewide level? This is the first time that they actually forced businesses to close.
Okay.
Now, wow, you think about that, like, wow, really, like, we actually went through a pandemic where people couldn't leave their house unless you was a essential worker. You just look so normal, like, yeah. Like, but if you actually step away from it, can you imagine going back in time, and if your age was 10 years old or you was 15 years old and actually having to live through that?
Yeah, I think everybody had different effects from it. So I think depending on where you were, it just depended on how it impacted your day-to-day life.
New York got hit bad because that's like when they first started, and then they started like really shutting everything down there first. And then California was like they stayed shut down for a long time. But with that though, as they start to shut down businesses, then if the business is closed, then the employees no longer have a job, which calls for unemployment. So people were getting furloughed, people were getting laid off. It's a great thing that they actually stepped in. And I know it cost us trillions of dollars, but it's a great thing that they actually stepped in and started to provide extra funds towards unemployment, towards PPP, to try to keep people employed, to keep the rate of unemployment down. But out of all of this, it was no fault of like the U.S. citizens. This was something that was just totally unforeseen.
Right.
So unemployment, the average of unemployment prior to COVID was 4 to 5%. The peak during COVID, it got up to 14.8%.
Yeah.
That's
unemployment was like at its lowest ever.
Like prior to that. And, you're right. And then this happened, and then it jumped up to 14.8%. But now it's back down. It's been trending down. We're down into the sixes now.
Right.
So the stimulus checks and people being able to draw unemployment has really kept the economy afloat.
Right.
Because one, it's been able to help people to get food. So now let's talk about like the pros.
Right.
The pros to people being able to have access to unemployment if they was furloughed or got laid off. It was able to help you, to feed your family, to help pay bills, light bills, cell phone bills. I know cell phone bills, but like you still have to be able to text your family and have to communicate.
Right.
So all your bills, gas, some people still had to travel. So whatever the case was, it really kind of came in handy. So that was a pro to being able to draw that. And then on top of the unemployment, the stimulus checks. So due to the high rate of unemployment and people not having like the job, because unemployment on average, it will range between like 41 to 80% of like what your normal pay wage would be.
Right.
So the average person, they would get that on top of, I know at one point they were giving like an extra $600 per week. So some people was getting like more than they made at like when they actually worked.
Right.
So that was a pro.
Right.
And hopefully those people use the funds in the right places, So that's one of the pros to it. The other pro to it is being able to save money, which hopefully people did, right? So if you made more than you normally would by drawing like your stimulus check and the unemployment, then hopefully you was putting up funds. And there's a lot of people who was actually like they didn't have rent or they didn't have a mortgage payment.
Right.
So being able to get unemployment and not pay that $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 on rent or mortgage, can you imagine? I mean, that's like really should have put a lot of people ahead.
Right.
So you're thinking like now I got an extra $1,500 that I would be paying in rent. I don't have that rent payment, so I'm gonna put the extra $1,500 to the side. I'm gonna pay off some debt with that. Plus, I got this money still that comes in. So hopefully that was the case. The other thing, a pro by drawing unemployment because you're home, you're not employed. Some people work part-time and still can get unemployment, but the majority of the people, like, they didn't have a job due to the COVID. So if you're at home, hopefully you took advantage of that time. Let me go online and start school, and let me go and get that degree I wanted while I'm home and I'm drawing. So that's one good thing. Also, it just give you the opportunity to just like dwell into things that you want, like your passions. So people, I know, like you see a lot of startup businesses now. So right. So like people are actually taking those funds and like, you know what, let me start a new business.
It made people slow down. So it made people like reanalyze what they do with their time, what they do with their life when you're, and I guess like I was saying, it really just depends on how your area was impacted, because I know like for us, a whole lot really, I mean, didn't change a whole lot.
The mask.
That was it. But I mean, we were still out. I was still doing what I do on a normal basis.
Outside the mask and social
distancing. I mean, life continued on as normal. And I think it did for, you know, our area in general. So,
well, let me step back. It wasn't norm. I remember back maybe February of 2020, like you couldn't even go into the store and get toilet paper.
Well, I mean, the toilet paper selling out thing, but that was just ridiculous. I'm just talking about like
paper
as far
towels.
As like our workload increased.
Oh, here you mean like
yeah. So, you know, a lot of people during the COVID, they didn't have work, they got laid off. But what was crazy is our workload increased during that time. So, you know, whereas some people were getting unemployment and staying home and analyzing their life and getting tired of people they live with because they were stuck in the house with them 24/7.
We actually had a big boom, especially on the credit side.
So I think it impacted everybody differently. But there are pros to in the communities that were hit the hardest, that those funds came in and were able to assist people on a level to where they could pay some bills.
Right.
But in some cases and in some cities, it didn't.
Right.
You know?
There's a lot of people still struggling.
Right. That they're pretty much going to be in a foreclosure state when it opens back up.
I was going to get to that, but go ahead.
You know, increase of homelessness, because some places open back up, they hadn't been paying their rent.
Right.
And I mean, you have to look at it from both sides. The person that owns the property you're renting, if you're not paying them, they still have to pay the mortgage on the property, you know? And some...
there were some programs out there to help.
There were some, but if you had a mortgage on that, there were some mortgage companies that weren't doing forbearance or forgiveness or anything during COVID.
Right.
Like you paid your mortgage because they weren't going to see, you know, the housing market crash because people weren't paying their mortgage at all. So they were saying, you know, you're getting this money, you're going to pay your mortgage. Right.
Right. That's interesting. So they have eviction ban right now, and they are projecting it to end as soon as maybe September. So we're only a few months away. So when you think about
that's per state, right?
I'm not for sure.
I think that's per state.
The ban. There is projecting it to end as soon as September. So you just think that if you have not been paying, well, rent is different. I don't think they're expecting you to come back and pay like every missed payment in rent. But if you got a mortgage and you have not been paying on your mortgage, the interest has been accumulating and compiling over that time. So a lot of companies, mortgage companies, are expecting like that to be caught up, even though they got programs to help to say, okay, like spread this out over the next 12 months. But if you are like barely getting by now, and then your mortgage payment starts in September, but now with the interest that has accrued over like prior during that time period, when you didn't have a payment, now you're paying instead of like $1,000 a month, you could be paying like $1,500 to $1,700 per month trying to get that caught up, and that may be unaffordable
Right.
for some. And then it kind of alludes back to what that same comment that you said, that, you know, this could create a big problem.
Right.
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 NBC actually had a news article on that. I didn't see the whole thing, but they actually had an article on that too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the cons though. So if you're home, before we get into the cons, this is going to be good. I got a good subject for you because I know you brought this up before. Is there is an influx of job fairs right now.
Right.
There are a ton of companies that are trying to hire people and have there's a gap in the amount of qualified people that's actually coming to apply for those jobs.
It's not even qualified people.
Not even qualified, yeah, but
It's just people.
people in general.
Some places, I know here locally where we are, they've had news articles like where the local news has covered like downtown areas that are trying to hire servers and cooks and, you know, your restaurants that are opening back to full capacity and stuff.
Right.
And they're trying to get help and they're unable to find help. And then you have big companies too that are looking for help, that are having job fairs and things like that. And you see it, I mean, on business signs. I show houses
Now hiring all
all
everywhere.
over the place, everywhere. At grocery stores, now hiring. I mean, at our local grocery store, they had a table up front with applications stacked on it,
trying to get people
trying to get
apply.
people to apply and everything that they were hiring for.
But if you look in the mind of the average millennial,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm going to go work at this store and make $10 an hour, or I could stay home, because if I get $10 an hour times 40,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I could make $1,600 a month, or I could stay home and get unemployment and make $600 extra on top of whatever it is. So I could
Right.
be making around $2,500 per month. Then the average person mindset would be like, I could just stay home and make more than why go and work, and, you know, the effort and driving there and all the frustration.
I think that's one of I think that the government was trying to get everything pushed so quickly because of the demand of the people.
Right. Due to the high rate of people being furloughed and laid off.
Right. In certain areas that they didn't look at, not every area is impacted the same, right? And they didn't put stipulations behind the unemployment. So now you have people that aren't even actively looking for jobs.
Well, it's good that you brought that up, because I was doing some homework online to go over this discussion. And the state of South Carolina now, unemployment, you have to submit. I don't know because the article was out from last week. So it's stating that going forward to draw unemployment, you actually have to submit and show that you applied for work.
Right.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can see the face, but I'm just saying what's being put into place.
Right. They're trying to go back to the requirements for typical unemployment that you have to do to be able to gain access to the funds
Right.
through unemployment. But I mean, I could put in 10 applications and I could have
10
5
people
people
call me and I just don't
and
show
I
up for
just
the
don't
interview.
answer or show up for the interview.
Yeah.
You know?
Let's talk-
I think that there's just things that could be put in place that would make it like, are you really trying to go to work, or
Do you have any recommendations?
what do you mean?
Well, you say I think there's things that can be put in place. So do you have any recommendations?
Well, I think it's just that the government is short staffed too. And so I don't think that they have the bodies or want to pay the bodies to have in place to follow up with people. Like, if you're saying you're applying for these jobs,
I started off checking it every other week, just like most people do. Then it got out of control. I couldn't help myself. I started checking it day after day after day. I didn't realize that I was becoming addicted until my wife said something.
What did she say?
She said, "It's just a credit score, relax."
Are you checking your credit score?
Huh? Hold on.
There should be like a follow up.
Oh.
Well, did this job call you? Have you been interviewed? They should be calling the places that the people say they're hired at and talking to the HR and being like, did you call this person in for an interview?
Well, let me say something on that.
Okay.
Thing. So, at the peak of the unemployment, there was 9.7 million people drawing unemployment. So, can you imagine? Just think of the staffing they have to get for the census. So, just imagine like trying to hire a
No,
lot
I'm
of
not
that is-
saying for this particular. I'm just saying in general. Now that everything's opening back up, now that you have all these places hiring, but people are still taking advantage of the system.
Right. And I'm sure that people in the right places are having these conversations. Like, what kind of processes could we put in place to help improve this?
Right, but I think that they do it behind.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean,
you-
because they had to react to something like this. This was like the COVID.
Right.
It was just totally out of nowhere. Even for them to just come up with that first stimulus package and the PPP. You see all the people now being caught in the fraudulent activity because of the PPP.
And I was going to say that too, because you have all these people that are, how many people are probably getting unemployment saying that they're furloughed or don't have a job, but then are creating these businesses and they've gotten PPP loans. So they're contradicting themselves.
Well, that's going to, I was reading an article on that. It's crazy that you brought that up because if you got a PPP, this is going to be really good, guys. If you got a PPP, it's going to be reported. They are creating a system where each function talks to each other. So if you got a PPP, the SBA is going to report that data. So if you're like on Section 8, on public housing, if you're getting any type of funds, unemployment, but you got the PPP, be prepared to explain how. And if you got a PPP, it could impact you actually still being qualified for being on public housing or on Section 8.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it always comes back around. So nothing is free. So even all the stimulus money, all of the unemployment, everything that was paid out, I understand that it was there to help people for that amount of time, but nothing in life is free.
You know-
Nothing in life is free.
You're right, because they're actually talking about, we're like over $20 trillion right now, the U.S. economy.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge deficit.
Right.
I was trying to think of the word, but yeah, that's a huge, over $20 trillion.
Right.
So,
Right.
so here's some of the cons if you're on unemployment. One of the cons is you don't have the opportunity to put yourself in a place to like buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
So if your goals were
Watch Real Estate Wednesday.
upcoming,
No, I mean
Oh,
before,
the
I've
before.
talked about like if you're trying to get financing,
oh yeah, and they look at that.
they
yeah.
look at unemployment don't count,
Unemployment
short-term
don't
disability
count.
don't count.
If you're trying to buy a home,
Yeah.
unemployment don't count.
Unemployment don't count as income.
So just be weary. You know, keep your goals ahead as a priority. So whatever
Right.
your goals are, keep that as a priority in your life. Number two, also, if you're trying to buy a car, you're trying to buy a car, and now you may not be able to afford that car because you only bring in X amount of
Right.
dollars. Stimulus check don't count. You know, when
Yeah.
so just keep that in mind. And here's a con that people probably don't think about. If you're sitting home on unemployment, like it could impact your health. You know, because now like you just sitting home, you're probably eating more than normal, probably gaining unwanted weight, depression. So if you have an opportunity to get back to work, you know, that may be like a prime thing for the average person to do. If you have the opportunity to get back to
Right.
work. The other thing is now if you're home on unemployment and you have your kids home with you too, the impact it could have on their social skills being developed. Because now like these kids are not being able to interact. And this just not unemployment. This was due to the COVID. Like them kids being home. Can you imagine the impact they had on them being stuck in the house all day as a child? When on a norm, you're in school, you got your friends, and now the only thing you can't do is talk to your friends on the phone or through like FaceTime or something. So the impact of all that's a con to people being home on unemployment, and not only for them but their children also. Like, how does it impact them? Because if the kids are in school, the kids got PE. Now they're home, and I know like the average person not telling their kid go and exercise.
And you had a lot of parents that decided to keep their children homeschooled as well.
Yeah, if they
Like-
feel that they could do a better job,
Yep.
or if it's impacting like the cost. If they feel that, I'm gonna keep my child home because I don't want to take my child not in school but daycare.
Right.
So like in daycare, we know that's expensive for children.
Right.
Here's the big one. And then we're going to get ready to end this. But here's the big one. Healthcare. If you were working and your job offered you healthcare, if your job offered you a 401 and now you are drawing unemployment, you do not still maintain your healthcare under the majority of the time. Most employers are not providing their employees
Those
healthcare.
benefits.
Yes. So, and this is for the people to actually see this and think, especially the young people, because they see this and they're like, well, I can just hang out. I can go to the beach and I don't got to work. But now you got to think of all the factors, especially if you got children, and the average person as a family have family health care insurance. So now you're
Right.
home on unemployment, and now if your children got their checkups, dental, vision, you have no insurance. And those things are very expensive.
And I want to throw this out here because it's Wealth Building Monday. I know we're at the end of the show, but us talking about business all the time, if these businesses continue to operate at the level that they're operating with the lack of employees, that's going to impact your service. That's going to impact that company because they're not going to be as efficient. They're saving cost on the employee, the employee not being there, but overall that impacts their customer experience. So if you're going to a restaurant, but you're getting mad because you're sitting there for an hour waiting to be seated at the restaurant, and they have a now hiring sign up, and you have to think, in most of those types of industries, the call out volume is already high. You already have people that call out often. I've been in that industry, so I had this is experience talking. So in those industries, it's already hard enough as it is to maintain employees and staff and have them come in all of the time on time, right? So it's going to impact these businesses and have a negative effect on the customer service that's being even. I know a lot of companies went to work from home.
Right, yeah.
And that's impacted customer service.
Oh, that's a whole show. That is a whole new show.
I'm just saying, as a society, at the same time, if you don't have the right people in place, then it's going to have an impact all over.
Over, yeah.
If these businesses can't operate, if they're not getting as many customers in the door because they don't have enough help, that impacts their bottom line. And so that business is going to be impacted.
You know what? Something that we probably don't think about too, if the average person throughout the year, as they work, they like the taxes comes out, and then at the end of the year they file their taxes, get this big tax return. If you're home on employment, you can forget about that. Right,
Yeah.
right. Your tax return is like nothing. So it definitely has an impact on the overall economy.
Right.
Because the less businesses generate, the less they pay out in taxes. The less they pay out in taxes, the government is spending trillions of dollars, but only bringing in because it's trending down.
It's going to the taxes are going to go
the long
somewhere.
term. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it's going to go on your products. It's going to go on your services. It's going to go somewhere.
It's gonna go somewhere. So yeah, even when you get paid, if your taxes increase, like why they taking out so much money out of my taxes? Due to like everything that they had to do to help the
Economy at that time.
sustain. So guys, this was like really like serious. It was a serious conversation, but hopefully like the people was able to like to gain something and learn from it. Because there's a lot of pros. You always have to see things from both sides of the spectrum. I'm trying to think. The vantage point. You gotta look at it from a different vantage point and see every angle. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. Episode number 74. Wealth Building Monday. And we'll be back on Wednesday. Real Estate Wednesday with Miss Rebecca Wallace.
I will be here.
She will be here, guys.
Hey, we have a part 2 continuation from
Part
last
2.
Wednesday.
Part 2. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You look at over the last week, a lot of people be like putting comments down now. So we appreciate everyone that's dropping the comments down in the comment section. We love to hear your feedback. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday for Real Estate Wednesday.
If you want the boss's view, you gotta sacrifice. You wanna move like bosses move.
YMA, Young Millionaires Association. Yeah, see, that's the association. Joe.